Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Rangers Radio. I take it we're on air nowadays. The world's unique platform for beers all over the world. And on the panel tonight, we've got Rudy and we've got Bridgeman and we've got our Fox. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening, True. Evening, Fox. Evening, Bridgeman.
I'm glad you never suffered any damage when I was digging you up from under the flare board there, True. Nice to have you back, mate.
Brilliant. Oh, fantastic. Can I just say a huge big good evening to the boys in the panel, massive good evening to the boys in the lobby, and to all the Rangers fans listening in all over the world. Good evening, and welcome to Rangers Radio.
Well said, Bridge. Apparently the boys in the lobby are having a French night, so maybe I should reopen the show in French, eh?
Hello? Love it.
Anyway, guys, tonight we've got a bit of culture for you. We've got a bit of poetry. We're also going to discuss the Irish Football Association's decision to invoke the clause which denies Rangers Big Lafferty for Sunday. Rudy will be telling us, as usual, what he had for his dinner. Further interest arising concerning the skipper. So there we go, boys. How are we all anyway?
Everything's good to you. Had my pie and beans and chips tonight for my tea. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Up at my mate's, bit of painting, then we go to Scotch pies and the tin of beans and the chip freezer chips. So his missus is away for a couple of days, so there was no home cooked stuff, so we got it all out the freezer, you know.
Was it real painting or portrait painting or house painting?
Oh, it was house painting.
House painting, right, okay, pal.
How the other half live, Bridgeman.
Exactly.
Big mutton pie, a handful of fried totties and beans. Can he beat it?
Yeah.
That must have been a culture shock for your stomach, Rudy.
Well, I'll see how I feel later on. I might be out to Kazi quite a lot later. The way he cooks anyway.
Chair says it was a bit of nude painting you were doing, mate. Is that right?
Yeah, that'd be a picture and a half if his wife came back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thanks, mate. I've seen you in a posing pouch. It's not a pretty sight.
No good luck, mate.
You're a shockers.
No good luck. Let's see the size of the overalls he gave me, honestly.
Oh, no, thanks. I thought you were going to...
Thank God you said overalls there.
You're stepping off the Harlem Turf when you say these things, pal.
I tell you, I thought I was about 7 feet tall, the size of these overalls. I only stand about 5'7", you know.
I had visions of you with the paint roller tucked into the posing pouch. But anyway, it's Rangers Radio. Let's stop this smut. The Irish Football Association has invoked the clause which prevents the Rangers playing Big Lafferty on Sunday against Hamilton Accies. Any thoughts, Rudy?
We've been disappointed in it, to be honest, True. But did say last week, though, we kind of touched on this last week, you know, and I think most of us were of the opinion that Big Laff should have gone. You know, he's trying to deal with a bit of an Achilles problem, apparently, but I think most of us were of the opinion that he should have gone, had it looked at with the team doctor, and then if there was a problem for him, they could have said, right, that's okay, you came here, you've done whatever has to be done, you might as well go back now, you know. I saw something the other day where they apparently phoned Michael O'Neill up at midnight one night to say that, look, I'm not coming, I've got an injury. That isn't, in all honesty, True, the best way to go about things. And I did say at the time when we touched on it that I didn't think it looked good, if truth be told, you know. And I think Big Laugh's made an absolute mess of this, to be honest. And apparently I read somewhere else where Rangers actually said that he was fit. So there's been some kind of cross communication here. There's something went wrong somewhere, you know. So I can see why they've used this 5-day ban thing or what, a 6-day ban, whatever it is. Now, for me, it's disappointing, but I can also see why they've done it, though, True, to be honest with you. I think possibly True yourself. I think you said he should have gone to the doctor, you know, and met up with him and spoke to Michael O'Neill face to face. He should have spoke to the doctor face to face. And this is the result of him not dealing with things properly, you know. It's disappointing for us to not have him at the weekend, certainly. But this is a result of him not dealing with it properly, I think, if truth be told, like.
I couldn't disagree, mate, Bridgeman.
Yeah, I'm much like Rudy there. What I believe is what I heard, I read. I read that he'd been to Rangers and they had complained. Knew he had a slight Achilles problem, but it was okay. And so Rangers reported it to the Irish Football Association, and they accepted Rangers saying okay. But then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, the big man says, "No, I'm not going to go," and a very awkward time in the evening and things like that. So I think he was. I hate to say this about a Rangers player, but I think he was fundamentally wrong the way he done it. He should at least have, maybe even better to phone Gerrard at that time of night and let Gerrard know I'm injured, just to let him know, because this may have come as a big surprise to Gerrard as well. However, he's done what he's done, and I don't blame, to a certain extent, I don't blame the Football Association of Ireland to saying things about him and reporting him and so on and so forth. What I do think is Lafferty was wrong, and I think they were wrong to invoke that clause. I don't think there's any other country would have done that. I just don't think so. They must think that's so serious to do that. And who are they actually hurting here? Who are they trying to punish? Because they're not punishing Lafferty. Lafferty's injured, to all intents and purposes. So he's not been cleared for to take and play, but they're just putting that ban out on him, or using the FIFA logic of 5-day ban, which includes a weekend. So, well, I think they're wrong. So I think Lafferty was wrong, I think they were wrong, and two wrongs will never make a right.
Okay, Fox.
I think he was in the wrong myself personally, but we don't know the circumstances of why he withdrew for the Northern Ireland squad. Rangers did claim that he was fit, but there was a couple of hours after the Hearts game, and you've got to look at other things in Big Laugh's life. His wife has just had a kid. He's given her a couple of weeks to get back, and now he's back on the saddle and pulled his hamstring. Nobody's even thought of that, have they?
Interesting.
Possibilities, true.
Aye, for me, mate, it's stupidity. I don't know who's culpable here, but I think the club should. My understanding is if you say you're injured for the international team, you've got to appear there. Their doctors and physios will have a ruling on that and probably send you back home. Now, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of sense in that approach either. And that would be the case. Now, I would have thought that the club itself are well aware of that rule and would have sent him and made sure he turned up. I don't get it at all, so I'm wondering who's culpable.
Is there a possibility, True, that he could have, in the run-up to them picking their squad, he could have said to them, maybe before they picked the squad, look, going to leave me out for this one. You know, I'm struggling here, I've got a wee bit of an injury that I'm trying to work my way through. Don't pick me for this one. Would that have been a better way to deal with it? Or maybe, I don't know if there was enough time for him to do that, you know. But if that would have been a better way of dealing with it, at least it wouldn't have been looked as bad as it looks just now, you know. Maybe he could have just said, look, leave me out for this one. If you don't mind, I've got a bit of a problem, you know.
Well, I think that is the thing. Talking's always the best policy, isn't it?
Aye.
I mean, he's as far as my reading into it again for the outside is it, you know, he's left them with no choice, and I think they've invoked that. I don't think the international teams or associations will invoke these things unless they get good cause. But it seems to be a common thing nowadays. People are picking and choosing when they're going to play for their country, and I'm not sure I agree with it, regardless of my feelings about the SFA. So I don't know your thoughts on that, Bridge.
You know, I think the SFA we're still speaking about Lafferty, aren't we, really?
Aye, that's what I mean. You know, is it right? You know, players should pick and choose their international appearances.
Well, it's there's, how can I say this? I hate to bring this up, but that wee chap that done for racism, wee Thumbhead, he was he called off the Scotland game, just went home, and I don't know what happened there, and it's the same thing that the SFA could have, I would imagine, could have said, well, if you need to wait till you can't play for at least 5 days, simple as that. However, we don't know. That's a bit of water buttery, as they say. But seriously, this to me will end up a massive, serious blip, a big blip for Rangers. I don't know if Rangers were going to play him this weekend, but if he'd have been available, I would imagine he would have come on at some point. Now he can't, based on what we're hearing. And I think he's got a bit of explaining to do to our manager. I don't think Rangers as a club were expected anything like this, because they probably didn't know anything about it until they were told by the Irish FA that they're going to invoke this rule, which apparently was on Tuesday there. So really, really difficult. It's a bad spot for Lafferty. It's an even worse spot for the Irish FA, and the Rangers are the ones that are going to get punished. And I think that's the wrong part of it. Two wrongs never make a right, and there's only one mob that come out not smelling of roses, and that's the Rangers.
I think like there's been a lack of communication, doesn't there? You know, there's been a mix-up somewhere. That's been the sound of things along the way. You know, there was so much more could have been done with this, and it just seems to have been one mix-up to me. You know, I don't think the communication between anybody has been that great. And that includes Lafferty and the club as well. You know, if Rangers are saying, look, he's fit, Laff saying, look, I'm no fit, you know, phoning Michael O'Neill late at night like that and saying, look, I'm no fit, I can't come here, I can't come to the game, like, you know. Bad communication.
I think it's a case, it's a rule that's not often invoked, as you said correctly, Drew. But in all this, it's our club that's been punished, and the club haven't really committed a crime. It's Lafferty who has made the mistake. Yeah. That rule should be changed now to maybe the Home Association can fine the player a week's wages or etc. But there's no way that a club should go without a paid employee because of a mistake in communication between the player and the National Association. It's time they change the rule. The player should be, for me, as I said, fined for it and allowed to play for his parent club. It isn't the club's fault he made an error, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I had listened to a few interviews on the internet there, and you know, people talking about it and all the rest of it. And a lot of people are saying that more and more the clubs are asking their players, don't go and play for your international side. You know, is that the approach clubs need to take?
Well, the thing is, international football has dropped down the pecking order for players now, Drew, I think. Whereas years ago it was a great honour to play for your country. It helped you get moves, more money, etc. But now the actual clubs are paying that much money for top players now. I don't think it matters that much to them personally. And there's very few of them now that actually go out and really go 100% for their country now. Unless it's in like the World Finals, where again it's all about glory and fame. International football, the attendances as you watch it through the Europe programmes and the World Cup prelims, they're not well attended, mate. Not a lot of people's got a lot of interest in them. And especially in this country with the shambles we have got in Scottish football, I don't think there's that many players really want to play for their home teams, you know.
Rudy?
I think that's a good point Fox makes. I've recently, just in the last couple of days, 2-3 days or so, I saw a post by Werder Bremen fans, you know, saying, when's the real football coming back? The same type of thing we think, really. You know, they're wanting to watch their club. They're not really that interested in these, you know, these made-up games now for UEFA and this tournament that they're having now. You know, they're not that bothered about it. So, like Fox says, I agree with him. I think international football has dropped down the pecking order. You could go and watch Scotland at Hampden, you know, you'd get 60,000 Scotland supporters. When was the last time you seen 60,000 Scotland supporters, you know? No, for me, it's, I can't wait till the international break gets finished. You know, I know there's people interested in the national side. I'm not, unfortunately. There's only one team I want to watch, you know. So I think Fox makes a good point there, True.
Aye. Bridgeman?
Yeah, I was more in line with what Fox said the first time. So there's certain things in there that you know, it probably, he's a young man to a all intents and purposes with a new family, and it may be something more personal. I'm not saying he didn't have a wee tweak on his small injury that he had, and it might have blown up or something like that. It could be anything that happened in the house, and he's decided to go that way. I just think he's went the wrong way. I think he's let himself down. I honestly think he should have been. He wrapped his leg in bandages and he should have went over to the airport and get over there and a report, or go to Ibrox and report. Do you know what I mean? Report somewhere so that someone can look at his injury and work with the Northern Ireland people to confirm that it was badging. So I think something like that should have happened to him. Don't just sit in the house and then all the shit starts firing about him. But as I said earlier on, there's only one loser, and that's Rangers. And that's my personal opinion. That shouldn't be happening. This has got nothing whatsoever to do with Rangers. Nothing. Rangers should not be punished. They shouldn't lose the services of a player because of, shall we say, a miscommunication between the manager of the Irish national side and the player himself. Rangers shouldn't be involved in any of this. They've written to Rangers. Now, I'll ask you a question, and I'm not being funny when I say it. Why do you think they've done that? Why did they write to Rangers to say, we're invoking this clause and he can't play for you? That's the question I'm asking. Why would they do that? I can't understand why.
Rudy Fox?
I think it's right what Bridgeman says. I don't think Rangers should be punished for this, because if Rangers have come out and said, look, he's fit, the player's fit, there's no reason why he can't play, he can't be picked for his national squad, then, I mean, why? It's not you can't blame Rangers for that, So we get to a point where the association, the National Association says, well, you can't play now for 5 days. So that knocks him out of the game on Sunday. We're light enough as it is up front, so having to go and play a game without one of our top strikers, one of our only two strikers, really, it's no good for me, and Fox is right as well. This is going to be looked at, because it's different, if there's no communication for the club whatsoever, or they've been a part of the player no gone just because the player doesn't want to go, but that's not how this looks to me. Rangers have came out and said he's fit to play. That's what they said. Now that, for me, if he decides not to go, you can't blame Rangers for that. So it's the club that's being punished. And it's just not right to me. That's got to be looked at some point.
But surely Rangers should have put the foot down, Rudy.
Well, you think they would have said to him? You don't see. The thing is, you don't know the backstory to this. True. Maybe they thought he had every intentions of going, and it wasn't until he actually phoned, because the report was that he phoned Michael O'Neill at midnight and told him he wasn't coming. I mean, midnight. I mean, who phones the international manager at midnight, or the national manager at midnight, and says to him, by the way, I'm not coming. So I don't really know what went on there. But Rangers maybe maybe they just didn't know that he had no intentions of going, or maybe he decided at the last minute, and he thought, I better pick the phone up and phone Michael O'Neill. I don't really know. I don't know what the backstory is to this, True. That's the thing. And maybe Rangers, if I was Steven Gerrard, he'd have got a bollocking off of me after this came out, especially if they've said, right, this 5-day rule, we're pulling this 5-day rule on the player, he's not playing for 5 days. I would have laid into him because of the way he's went about this, to be honest with you, because he's now put us in a position where we've got one striker for the game on Sunday.
Aye, Bridge?
Yeah, 100%. I think that to me it's all about the effect on Rangers, and it's going to be a negative effect, and Rangers don't deserve a negative effect. As I said a wee bit earlier, I believe what happened was they knew he had a slight tweak on his Achilles, and he must have declared himself fit, because Rangers then declared that fitness to the Irish Football Association, and to all intents and purposes he was going to go and make himself available through the squad, and all of a sudden, in the last minute of the day, or at midnight, the day before he was supposed to join, he turns around and says, I'm not well. So I don't blame him for doing that, but I still think that should have been followed through, either by going to the headquarters where he was supposed to be reporting to, or indeed going to Murray Park, but to the Hummel Training Centre for Rangers and reporting in there, and let somebody look at it. And then take it for there with the Irish. Because I don't understand why the Irish are raging with Rangers. I just cannot understand this. If they're upset about it, Irish FA should have been talking to the SFA and get it sorted out for there. It's nothing to do with Rangers. Absolutely nothing. And we shouldn't be getting any bans on any player playing for us because of what happened between the player and the Irish FA. It's just wrong. Wrong.
You agree with that, Fox?
I do. I just want to say, I don't know if you noticed, but Jimmy's been in the call for about 5 minutes, mate.
Oh, I've noticed. I've updated this Skype. I can only see the person that's talking, sorry. Jimmy, good evening.
Good evening, True. I'm trying to be polite there.
I'm
just listening. It was good listening. Hi, Bridgeman, how you doing?
All right, pal.
Rudy.
But
yourself good?
I'm good, mate. How's you, Fox? How you keeping, pal?
Getting better, Jimmy.
Good, man.
I'm on steroids now. I'm feeling fit as kid.
Oh, hey. You said you're in a woman of your own name.
I wish they'd have sent me one round this morning.
How did you need Hoover to get done, aye?
Oh my God. Stop that, Fox. Stop it.
Good evening, guys, and all the Rangers fans out there. I've been listening patiently, and he's made a lot of great points. To answer what Bridge was saying there, I don't think there's anything sinister here about punishing Rangers here. I think there's an underlying reason, obviously, why Laugh decided that he didn't want to play, whether he had a niggling injury or no. We all can see what's happening in Northern Ireland. They're imploding the new, and maybe Laugh's no wanting to be part of that. There's maybe been things said behind the scenes. And unfortunately, I was looking on earlier on the day, guys, at about 20 minutes. I tried to do a wee bit of research, and I can't find another country that invoked the FIFA UEFA rule recently. So Northern Ireland's the first country to do it for quite a while. If I was Stevie Gerrard, I wouldn't give him a bollocking. If I was Rangers, I would say Lafferty's going to be playing on Sunday or in the squad on Sunday. I would just tell him middle finger. As a Rangers fan, I helped to pay Kyle Lafferty's wages by buying my season ticket and merchandise. I like to watch Northern Ireland play, and I like to see them win. But first and foremost for me, Kyle Lafferty is a Rangers player, and he should be included in any squad, no matter about any 5-day invocation. I think it's absolutely scandalous. I don't know what the outcome will be of this. I'm just hoping that Rangers come out and make some sort of statement. I know Stevie Gerrard's actually breached the subject yet. I'd like to hear what he say on it. I think it's a scandalous thing for Michael O'Neill today. You know, I know he's got allegiances allegedly towards us, but I think him and Lafferty's fell out, and he's trying to punish Lafferty. I don't think he's trying to punish Rangers. He's trying to punish Lafferty and try to embarrass him. I think probably the time will come, you'll probably hear in the next couple of days, maybe even the next 24 hours, that Kyle Lafferty will probably resign for or retire for international football, guys. That's my view on it.
Look, Lafferty never helped himself, mate. He's been in the public view down in the Cheshire area, getting selfies took and walking about the shopping centre down there. And maybe they've got wind of that and said he doesn't look as though he's injured, he's just bailed out.
I totally agree with you, folks. You know, I said during the week, sure, if you remember, I mean, that I think this might come back and bite us, because I said I was fearful that Northern Ireland would come back and invoke the 5-day rule, and God's sake, they've done it. You know, but at the same time, whether he's doing their doing selfies or no, you know, first and foremost, for me, he's a Rangers player. And you guys all covered that, you know, international football has never meant anything to me, personally. And I'm no decrying anybody who wants to go and see their international teams. But for me, I'm a blue nose, and I want the best players playing for my team. And if Kyle Lafferty is going to be stopped being in the squad on Sunday, I think that's ridiculous. And I think Rangers should make a stand. I don't know if Rangers can get punished if they put him into the squad, if there's going to be a FIFA or UEFA punishment, or Rangers just say, wait a minute here, this is your player, we pay his wages, they don't. I don't know, guys. I looked it up, and it's just that there's a set fee for playing for your country, depending on the appearances and all that, carry on. But they don't pay their wages. We do, and Rangers do. So we should have him in the squad. He's made a right arse of it himself. he should have dealt with it a bit better than he did. But hey-ho, we're at this situation now, and we've lost, as Rudy says, we've only got 2 strikers at Ibrox, and we've lost one of them for Sunday. So we just need to see. I'd like to see Rangers come out and make some sort of statement. Maybe they're looking into the laws or whatever, if they can maybe get run about it. Or maybe they would decide to go and speak to Northern Ireland IFA. I don't know, guys. I don't.
It would be interesting to see, Jimmy, what if there would be any kind of, sort of punishment, or for the want of a better word, from UEFA or for the Northern Irish FA, if Rangers did name him in the squad on Sunday. It would be interesting just to see what that would be, because I don't know myself, Jimmy, so I don't know what the story that would be, but it would be interesting to see, would there be a fine involved, as you say, Rangers pay his wages at the end of the day.
Can I come in on that, boys?
Don't. It's Rangers that pay the boys' wages, therefore he's their employee. You see, us as fans pay his wages, the club pay him, So I would like to see what that would be. I wonder how that would go. I wonder if anybody listening to the show knows about that. Maybe somebody could call in and let us know,
Rudy, and Jimmy, it's a FIFA directive, right? It's the 5-day ruling to stop, potentially to stop players for, shall we say, pulling a sickie, and then the manager might nip them and say, hey, pull out of that squad or don't play for them or whatever, and they say, well, I've got a big game on Wednesday, so pull out. Don't play this weekend. And that's what it's for. And it's a FIFA directive. Rangers can't do anything without causing problems for themselves or further problems for themselves. So they could end up getting pulled up by FIFA, and the club gets a fine or something stupid like that. It doesn't really matter. It's probably peanuts anyway, but it doesn't really matter. The thing is that they are now the victims. I'm using the word victim. I'll use it loosely. Rangers are the victims in all of this. And somewhere along the line, that is not right. Not right at all.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think Rangers should put him on the bench on Sunday, mate. What would happen if it happened if we took the 3 points there and then the SFA stepped in, mate, and said that we broke some rule and we've played an ineligible player and took the 3 points off us? Look, he's made an arse yet and he'll need to pay for it. I think the club and the Northern Irish FA, mate, will have a wee word between each other. The thing's been done now. He's out of the game on Sunday. There's nothing we can do with it. In fact, the club should fine Lafferty a week's wages for being an idiot.
Well, I think that's to do with the club, between the club and the player, and that may in fact happen. But I think that should be kept inside the Rangers area and don't let the public know anything about that. Don't publish that. It's all to do with the Irish FA and how they want to handle that. They've already written an email to Rangers saying that this is what's going to happen. They're going to invoke this part of the FIFA ruling. And if that goes through and Rangers agree that it's going to have to be done, then you're right, Fox. They can't do nothing and they shouldn't do anything. Don't even come out and make a statement. Just get on with it.
Fox, 100% agree with you, right? But there's different types of injuries, mate. I've been listening to 6 or 7 different forums in the last couple of days, and I listened to Talk Sport and a lot of it. What if it was a niggling calf injury that you can get with rest after 3 or 4 or 5 days? Why should that stop Kyle Lafferty playing for Rangers? That's my argument. No, it's not as if he's got a broken toe or something, like an Achilles injury. Allegedly, he's told him he's got a slight strain, right, and to make himself available. Rangers said a couple of days later he was available, right, but by that time he'd already pulled out the squad. My argument is then, Rangers can produce documentation that he had recovered for that injury, right, then he should be available to play on Sunday. And I 100% agree with what you're saying about if maybe it was a wee bit impetuous here, just throw him in and we could maybe lose 3 points. But my argument is all injuries are different. They've all got different healing timescales. What if the injury that Lafferty had was a soft injury that maybe took 2 or 3 days, and he didn't want to exacerbate that by going to training. Yes, we know he made an error set and he should have went to their doctor and let him deem that he was either fit or unfit. But when he said he was unfit, then Rangers then said he was fit. But they just didn't do that right away, folks. They done that 2 or 3 days later. So my argument there would be, somebody produce the evidence to tell us what kind of injury that he had. Was it a soft injury, or was it an injury that would put him out for a couple of weeks? That's my main argument on that.
Did he turn up at the Hummel Training Centre, mate, to get treated? The answer is no. He went away for a break.
I know that. That's what I'm saying. So we need to ascertain, was it a soft injury? Was it an injury? No. Why did he not go to the training ground? We don't know all the details yet. But the Irish FA have just come out there and we're going to invoke the rule. That's
Jimmy,
wrong.
I know, Jimmy. I think we have to be really honest here. I think Kyle Lafferty has tried to pull one off over the Irish FA. He didn't want to play. For whatever reason, we will never know. He's decided, I'm not fit enough to play, or I don't want to play, whichever the case may be. And he's just phoned them up at midnight and thought that was it. And as Foxy said, he's been found wandering the streets somewhere, or somebody's bumped into him or something like that, somewhere else, and not looking unfit, shall we say. But it's the way that's happened. Unfortunately for everybody, it's the way it's happened. And I only blame one thing. I blame Kyle Lafferty. He should have known. He's a big professional. He's not a wee boy anymore. He's a big, well grown up man, and he knows fine what he should be doing. That's the reason why he phoned at midnight. Yeah, that's the reason why he phoned.
See what Stephen Gerrard says, because he'll be asked about this obviously in the press.
Absolutely,
right?
pal, absolutely.
It'll be interesting to see what Stephen Gerrard's got to say about it, because he'll have the inside story by now. He'll know what's went wrong and where it's went wrong and who's to blame for it. Will he come out and tell us in the press when he's asked about it? Possibly no. He possibly might want to keep it between him and Kyle Lafferty. So he might not say much about it, but it'd be interesting just to see what Stephen Gerrard's got to say. We might find out a wee bit more, because as it stands just now, we don't really know much. A lot of stuff in the forums and that. You see a lot of stuff in the forums that's not true. So you don't really know what the story is just now. Maybe we'll find out more in the presser. But just as it looks just now, Jimmy, it has to be said, it doesn't look good on Kyle Lafferty at the moment.
No. I'm not defending him.
No, I know you're not.
He did make an error. I said that during the week there last week. He has, but there's as the old saying is, there's two sides to every story. And if he deserves a fine, then he deserves a fine for being an arse, right? But the fact of the matter is, we need to find out exactly what went on here. Because if this is Michael O'Neill just trying to punish Kyle Lafferty, whatever way, if there's been a foul along the line, or if Kyle Lafferty's just been a stupid you-know-what, then obviously we need to find that out. Because as a Rangers fan, like you guys, I'm absolutely disgusted with this. I want to see my Rangers players playing for my team.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when they go to international, whether they go to international duty or call off. It's the clubs that get punished for it. And I don't want to see any Rangers player playing for any international team. That's me being selfish. I've always been that way. But I hope it gets sorted. I'd like to see Rangers try and mediate with the Irish FA and try and get it sorted.
I mean, you said about Michael O'Neill. For me, if you're phoning up Michael O'Neill, Kyle Lafferty's actually gone and done that, phoned them at midnight and said, look, I'm not playing. I'm not coming. It's as simple as that. I've got an injury. I'm trying to work my way through it. I don't want to exacerbate it. I'm not coming. I wouldn't imagine Michael O'Neill was going to be very happy about that at midnight, taking a phone call off a player, regardless of who the player is. I don't think he's going to be very happy with that. I would imagine there was some strong words for Michael O'Neill, as you would expect, So we might find this out as time goes on, Jimmy, Maybe they did have thought.
Well, I think Northern Ireland's playing like Cousins, so maybe there's something being said. Let's hope they are, because they're playing rubbish, and unfortunately it's a team that I like to follow. But I've only stopped me supporting the Northern Ireland my own way, but I just think that it's just ridiculous.
Jimmy, see if it turns out that what Northern Ireland should have done as well is, before they go and invoke this clause or this line or whatever the directive is, before they go and do that, they would have been, to me, it would have made far more sense if they had got in touch with Rangers to find out from the Rangers' perspective, what on earth has happened? What happened to the player, and so on and so forth, and come to some agreement between them, because it's a long time, as you said yourself, Jimmy. It's a long time from I've heard any club being punished through this 5-day notice thing. And the only club, as you can just imagine, anything that's going to befall anybody is going to befall our club, and that is for sure. And everybody in the world appears to be against us at times, and this is another one of them. Because I cannot understand why the Irish FA would do this. They should be speaking to Rangers, and they should also be speaking to the Scottish FA to decide what they're going to do about it, and decide behind the closed doors, not through the papers, because that's all this has been. It's just been paper driven, and it's just utter nonsense. Lafferty should stand up now if he wants to, can stand up and say, hey, I'll take my punishment, I'm banned for a game. That's it. And Rangers might say the same thing, I don't know. Personally speaking, I hope they all just forget it. He's not been picked for Saturday, that's all there is to it. Let's go on with our life.
I think the thing for me is Mr. Lafferty's politicking and being captured. I think that's the bottom line with it, really. Yeah. I don't think there's any other way we can really look at it. Jimmy, I'm interested in what you were saying there. You've never had any interest in international football, the Scotland team or anybody else, mate?
No, I mean, don't get me. I've watched Scotland in the World Cups, not true, but I've never been to a Scotland game. And it's not something that I know like Sir Sandy Jardine and John Gregg and great Rangers players during the years and that played for Scotland, but it's not something that I've ever been interested in. You know, I've followed Rangers all over the world, and that's the team that I've always supported. You know, I know the history of Scotland, but it doesn't interest me. And I think it was Rudy or Bridger had said earlier on that even now that international football is diminished. Even all the big teams in the world now, they don't get the big crowds that they used to get away back in the 70s and 80s, you know. But it's not something that is really interested me. Don't get me wrong, I've sat and down to watch Scotland games in the telly. There's been a bevy going, so I sat and I watched it. But apart from that, no interested, mate.
Bridgeman, yourself, international interest?
Well, I was a fervent internationalist. And a lot of the games I couldn't go to because I was either playing football or working or something like that. But I used to go regularly, particularly going to Hampden. And way back, go back to when Scotland played Italy at Hampden, for instance. We won 1-0. So these kind of games, I was always there. I went to the game for the Celtic, or rather the Rangers and the Scotland Select. When Best came over and played. Wonderful game, great game. I raised a few quid for the Ibrox disaster. So I was always going to see the Scotland game, and if I couldn't make it, I would be catching it up on the telly, or when I was working away abroad, I'd be watching it on the telly. If I could get it on the telly, I'd be watching it. So yes, I was a big fan of international football. I'll tell you, I make no apology for it. I absolutely used to love watching England. I thought England were a great football team. But you know when they get beat, the Scotsman in me came out, and I used to have a wee laugh to myself. They get beat again, that kind of thing. But I liked watching them; they're really good. Yes, I was right now. Never wouldn't go near Hampden other to watch Rangers. Nothing else.
Why?
To me, shall we say, everything that's happening whenever it appears that whenever any Rangers oriented gets involved with Scotland, it's negative. Yeah, it's bad. It's Rangers, Huns, call it what you like, and our players have been getting booed when they come on the park. Admittedly, McGregor playing for Scotland, I don't think he's been booed. So it's mostly the outfield players. Remember when they brought Ian Black in and gave him a game? They brought Lee Wallace in. This is only in the last 5 years. Brought Lee Wallace in, booed. Ryan Jack, booed. As far as I'm concerned, no more. Not for me. I don't want any Rangers player to be involved in any way, shape or form with the Scotland squad. I'm not being stupid. The players want to be picked because it's a big deal for them to get an international cap, and it well done to them if they get it. But nobody should expect me to be watching and support them. I won't.
Fair enough, mate. Fox?
Oh, mate. Up until the Republican disease spread out through Scotland, mate, or before that, I should say, I was into everything Scotland, mate. I would have watched a Scottish boy playing table tennis on the telly, mate, and hoping he would win. I've been to Wembley, I think it's 4 times, when we took on what we called our big rivals back then, hoping that we'd always do them. Used to go to Hampden regularly, watch internationals. But that's all been taken away for people like us that support Rangers for the way they treated our club. And I would never go back now and watch them. Never.
Aye, fair enough, mate. Rudy?
I was a big Scotland fan too, so I was at one time, my dad was a huge Scotland fan as well, spent years going to Hampden, travelling away down to Wembley, all that stuff. Absolutely loved it, so I did. And I think there was a huge part of the Rangers support, within the Scotland support, if you go back 20 years, a massive amount of Bears were Scotland fans, but like Fox and like Bridgman, couldn't care less now, true. Could not care less. I wouldn't even turn the telly on to watch them now. And for me, that's a sad situation, but it'll never change, I don't think. I've watched what's happened over the last 6, 7, 8 years, what they've done to us, and for me, the Scotland support is just riddled for me now, and I wouldn't get anywhere near it any longer. And as I say, sad situation for me. I hate to say it, but it's exactly how I feel. Couldn't care less anymore. One team that matters to me now, and that's the Rangers.
Aye, fair enough, Paul. You're talking about Hampden there now. It's really been getting in my goat. They've bought Hampden now, and there's been, as I said at the time, it was fag packet accountancy. They're talking about spending £80 million on Hampden. How do you feel about that, Bridge?
God. Yeah, are we speaking about SFA here? The new owners?
Yep, but what I'm saying is, that's £80 million. We know how building work goes in Scotland. We've learned that through the Edinburgh tram fiasco.
Absolutely. That 60 million of that'll end up in Parkhead.
Aye, billions over budget and years over time. Thoughts about it, Bridge?
I think they'll be crazy if they went to and spent that amount of money. That amount of money must be spread over 5 years, just for saying sake, and that any good work that they're going to do must be. I know it has to be done quite quickly, to be perfectly honest with you, to satisfy the demands of the footballing public. Because Hampden was an old athletics type track round about it and all that. I think that's got to disappear, and they've got to make it a football stadium, and that's all there is to it. Just get it done. If they're going to spend money, I'm not taking anything to do with it. They'll not get a penny out of me. Other than if Rangers are playing, I'll go and see the Rangers. But other than that, no, they'll not get a penny. I don't like what they do. I don't like the people in it. I think the people in it are shady characters, and I would not be surprised. I know I said money will end up down at Celtic Park. I would not be surprised if it happened. I wouldn't be surprised if money was siphoned off to help Celtic in some way. I might be being over suspicious, and a lot of folk might laugh at me, think I'm paranoid. But the truth of the matter is, I do feel like that. I do think that kind of thing might happen. But not for me.
£80 million for Scottish football through is a huge amount of money. I've absolutely no idea where they think they're going to get that kind of investment for, because Scottish football, in my opinion, is not worth investing £80 million. And I think I read somewhere a couple of weeks back now, I think they were looking at I think it was at Stuttgart sort of. They redesigned their stadium and everything, and they're looking at that kind of model. It's one of the German sides anyway, one of the Bundesliga sides, and they're looking at doing the same, more or less the same kind of thing. But the be-all and end-all for me is the £80 million. I can't see where they're going to get that for. They're talking about putting together some kind of committee who'll go looking for investment and funding and stuff like that. But £80 million, it's a huge amount of money, considering that they actually cocked it up in the first place, and they've now had to talk about redesigning Hampden, because of the mess they made it, So Hampden, to me, all right, it wasn't the greatest stadium, but the atmosphere was always fantastic in it. They redesigned it, they made a mess of it, so they did. They took away all that atmosphere that Hampden used to generate. So hard to generate a good atmosphere in Hampden nowadays. But it's the money thing for me, true. It's just a huge amount of money for Scottish football to find for somewhere. Not that I care, because they won't be getting £1 off of me, mate. But, you know, it's a lot of money.
Okay, pal. Fox?
I don't think this is a great move in the way things have turned out, taking the stadium away from Queen's Park, mate. I've got a fear that there's other motives in the background for that. Cairo put into the lobby a couple of minutes ago that the Crumble Dome was falling down. And where do you think they could, once 80 million was spent on Hampden, where could they move to, mate? Just watch what comes in the future. Especially, I don't think that's far-fetched what Cairo's put in the lobby, mate. And then they'll even get money for transferring the disco lights to Hampden.
Jimmy?
Fox, you must have been in my head there. I haven't even got the lobby on. Pedo Dome is actually crumbling, as we all know, right? But £80 million a sticking plaster, right? But hockey and Hunter are involved in this, and don't be surprised if the main man at Pedo Dome's involved in it as well to try and get some sort of finance together. I totally agree with Fox is saying, though. Bridge was talking earlier on about being paranoid. No, I'm paranoid about this. How would it be if the pedos ended up in the National Stadium? It'd be their stadium, and it'd also be the National Stadium. I've hated Scotland SFA that much, even before the carry on with shoving us down below to the lower decks in 7 years ago. But I'll go way back to when the debacle with Willie Johnson is a fantastic Rangers player and went to run to him. But I know we're not getting to the top of it. But the money-wise, 80 million, what is 80 million going to be? I heard Rudy saying it's a Stuttgart are going to try and model it on, Rudy. And they're trying to bring the behind the goals nearer the park, right, as they did with Stuttgart. Is the Stuttgart model, mate? You're 100% correct.
Oh, I thought it was.
That's going to take more than 80 million quid, guys. You know, mate, let's be honest. You know, we've all been to Hamdump, and you know, apart from ripping it or just demolishing it and rebuilding it, which is going to maybe cost about 300 or 400 million quid in football stadium terms, that 80 million's a sticking plaster. But what Fox is saying there, and was it Cairo said it in the lobby, Fox? Aye, he's 100% right. You know, you can see something down the line. You know, that they end up getting it. It's falling apart. I had a couple of pals that worked in it last year, doing a bit of electrical work down the stairs underground in it. He says, and it's decaying badly, and it's, you know, and it's prime site for housing, and they'll sell that and they'll move into Hampden. No get a coin off of me, as Rudy says. Unless the Jers are playing there, they're not getting any money off me.
We've also been joined by Blue Shadow, Trout.
All right, I see him hiding down the corner of my panel there. Good evening, Shadow.
He's got his sus, Shadow.
Or should I say, bonjour, mes amis.
Bonjour, mes amis, huh?
I just sort of, they say try and hide there, but it's a bit difficult when your message like. So, I came on to ask about one thing. I keep asking about. So everybody's maintaining that the Northern Irish FA are not having a go at us when they're invoking this 5-day rule for Lafferty. Well, if they want to punish Lafferty, why did they just no select him next time, rather than giving us a hard time?
Good point. Good point, mate. But I think they've, as I said, I think he's just pulled a sickie. He's been caught, and this is their way of getting back at him. You know.
No disagree. Absolutely, I'm not disagreeing with you. But if they didn't want to have a go at us, then they should have a look at it internally and tell the guy, you're not being selected. This is why you're not being selected, and then and put somebody else on. And because somebody else has been selected, we might find somebody else that's actually better than you, and you'll not get selected again. That's a risk he's taken. That's a risk he's taken by not
back on that one.
By finishing. Sorry, I've lost my track. Go on, mate.
Fire away, Bridge.
No, I was just going to say that I don't think it's. I do think the Northern Ireland are trying to get at Rangers. I think they're trying to punish Rangers or have do some damage to Rangers because they think Rangers are involved with Kyle Lafferty in doing this. I think they think it's just tell them, we've got a game on Sunday, make an excuse up, just don't play, and you'll be on the bench or you'll get a game on Sunday. I think that's what they think. I don't think that happened. I think that's what they think, and they because of that and the nearness of it, they've decided. Irish FA have decided to apply this rule, and I think that's why I said earlier on. I think Lafferty was wrong, and I think the Irish FA are wrong, and two wrongs never make a right. I don't know why Rangers are getting tarred with this. I just no idea. Other than what you said earlier there, True Blue, if the Rangers come out and give a statement, then we'll find out what it's all about. I just can't understand it. I don't want Rangers to say in. Just let's go on, mate. As far as I'm concerned, Rangers haven't said anything about it, and they don't know anything about it. It was strictly between Lafferty and the Irish FA, and they're punishing Rangers. That's the way I see it. Sorry, boys.
I've got no idea who's in charge at the Northern Irish FA. Perhaps do
yes, of course.
Look at that, and you might find your answer there. I'm not saying you will, but you might find your answer there. I haven't looked myself.
Well, there you go, guys. I suppose we're not privy to what goes on behind the scenes, but I think the IFA are limited to how they can punish Lafferty in the terms as well. I think it's either they invoke the 5 days or give him an international ban. And I don't know, I mean, they've got a lesser population than we have to choose from. I think they need every player that's gone, but I'm sure if Mr. Lafferty has got his national pride intact, he should be well aware of that. You know how important that is that all the team turn up. But I was asking Blue Shadow before you come back on and come back to Mr. Lafferty there. 80 million to get spent in Hampden. Now, bear in mind, that's a very conservative estimate. What's your thoughts on that one, mate?
Well, did they not spend nearly 80 million on it last time and make a total pig's ear of it? As far as I'm concerned. I mean, for me, right from the start, totally the wrong decision. For me, Murrayfield is a far superior stadium than Hampden will ever be, even when you spend 80 million on it. You'd have to tear the whole damn thing down and start with a blank canvas to make anything that's any use at Hampden. And it cost, I can't remember how many years ago it was that they built Wembley, but that cost over 100 million then. The new Wembley, that cost over 100 million then. And there's a boy offering them 600 million for that this week. So it gives you an idea how much that stadium's going to cost to bring up to a level that will be suitable. And I think it'd be far better just calling it a day on Hampden and move the whole local shooting match across to Murrayfield. For God's sake, it's only 45 miles centre to centre from Glasgow to Edinburgh, and there's a train will take you right into Haymarket, and you can walk straight there to there. No problem at all. So for me, that's what I would do.
Okay, I'll take that point on board, but some of the guys have got suspicions about the agenda behind and the benefits of, redeveloping Hampden. I couldn't agree with you more. I think the last time they got it totally wrong. They should have moved all the stands in, bulldozed the stands one at a time. It was done at Ibrox back in the day as well. But I'm looking at, you've got 2 semi-finals and a final for the League Cup, same with the Scottish Cup. You're talking 6 major club games in a season. I don't know how many internationals are playing there. Certainly Queen's Park are playing in the ground, but they're not going to keep it going financially as well. Is there any justification in spending that sort of money on doing Hampden up, Rudy?
No. Simple as that, no. I mean, you say that yourself, True, it's a conservative estimate. Let's talk about conservative estimates here. Look at this shambles of the new track system in Edinburgh. Look how much that cost, how long it went over time, and it's nowhere near what they said it was going to be. Look at the Parliament at Holyrood. The estimate for that was 40 million. They ended up spending 410 million on it. So to say that they can do this work at Hampden for 80 million quid, as much as it's a huge amount of money for Scottish football, it's laughable, because that'll not even touch the sides, in my opinion, to upgrade that to anywhere near the stadium that Murrayfield is. And that's a great point that Blue Shadow makes. I go to the Auckland Internationals and stuff like that, I think Murrayfield's an absolutely fantastic stadium. I think some kind of agreement could be came to with the SRU and I don't see any reason why the rugby guys and the SFA, the SRU and the SFA couldn't work at the same stadium. It would save an absolute fortune. There'd be no hidden agenda to worry about, you know, because as I said, these people, like hockey and that, they're not involved in this at the goodness of their heart, you know what I mean? So for me, that's a perfect way of solving the problem, is go to the SRU and come to an agreement with them. Because I don't know how many of the Bears have been to Murrayfield. I mean, there was a lot there with that, you know, there was a 30-odd thousand at the Rangers and Hearts game earlier.
35,000, yeah.
35,000. Yeah. Right, there you go. It's a fantastic stadium, Murrayfield. Absolutely love going to it, so I do. And so for me, it would be a perfect solution to the problem. And it wouldn't cost anywhere near 80 million, let me tell you. And there'd be no agenda involved either.
By the way, there before the break, guys.
Okay, Jimmy, go ahead, and then we'll get Bridgeman.
The 35,000 at the Hearts game, and I was fortunate enough, about 3 years ago, I was at the Scotland-England rugby. And I can tell you that, see when that stadium's full, guys, see the noise.
It's amazing, Jimmy.
It's amazing. It's the only ever time I've ever been to rugby. I got an invite, and I tell you, Rudy, I don't know if you've been yourself, mate. I know it's rugby noise, but it's still fans are fans.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute... And the view I had was great for that and also for the Hearts game. I don't go to away games, no. But I decided I was going to go to Murrayfield because where it was, you know, a fantastic stadium. Sorry to jump in there, but I mean that if hockey and what do you call him is involved, Hunter, then you can see where it's gone, guys. See where it's gone. Sorry for jumping in, man.
Bridge?
I was just going to say that the much as my fear is that Celtic will, somewhere along the line, become embroiled in Hampden. I fear that greatly, but somehow or other, my sensible head says it probably won't happen, simply because Hampden is now owned by all the clubs who are the SFA. And in 2 years' time, that'll be it. They'll be owned by the SFA. And I doubt very much if Celtic will be able to pull any wool over the SFA's eyes as far as moving into Hampden's concerned. I just don't think that will happen. However, I've been wrong before.
Talking about the SFA here, Bridge.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that, remember, the SFA is all the clubs, right? It's not the board. It's not a bit of political manoeuvring. If Celtic turned around and says, we're going to take over Hampden, you'd probably find they would say, no, that's ours.
If Celtic were in trouble, the SFA would bail them out.
Hold on a second. Wait a minute. That was not the implication we were speaking about, Jimmy. I do apologise. What they were saying was that through time, before long, Celtic would take over Hampden, to all intents and purposes, because the Crumble Dome, right? The Crumble Dome effect. And then they'll get the 80 million spent in the new stadium and they'll take over. That was the implication. I don't think that would happen that way. I'm not saying that Celtic would never end up at Hampden, any stretch of imagination, but I don't think it would happen like that.
All the clubs have made great decisions there the last few years.
Oh, absolutely. But remember, they've never owned. The SFA, i.e. all the clubs, including Rangers, now own Hampden, or they will own Hampden when all the deeds are settled, you know.
Could I put the first one after you come back from the break, lads? Because I'll have a go at this.
No bother, Shadow.
I'm on mute.
If we can all go on mute, gentlemen, we'll have the cultural interlude for this evening.
The greatest in the game as we rally round the Rangers. It's rally,
Oh, fantastic, folks. I love that Edith Piaf. Was that because of the French night?
Absolutely brilliant.
Blue Shadow, you were wanting to come in, mate?
Yes, certainly was, my friend. It's just right. Let's take this about the Mankey Mob. Will never get the chance to come into our renovated Hampden were it to happen. Right, let's go cast a memory back to the time when the SPL and the SFL turned into what is now known as the SPFL. And the back of that was 42 sides had a vote, 42 different clubs had a vote in that. And there's only 12 in the Premiership, and we all know which ones are particularly prone to voting on the sides of those across the city. And they still managed to make the SFL clubs just seem to, hand them everything. I don't know what promises they were made. There was a couple of clubs spoke out against them, but that was it. And I don't know what hold they've got over them, but I wouldn't bet against it in a million years, especially after that debacle that happened when they basically, the smaller company took over the larger company of the SFL.
They've already arranged the first concert, mate. Rod Stewart.
Stop swearing, Fox. For God's sake. Dreadful. So, it's a big thumbs down to redeveloping Hampden.
Yeah.
Yeah, to totally revisit the whole decision and just call it off. I don't know. If necessary, sell it off to developers and move to Murrayfield.
I think they should spend 80 million in Ibrox, mate, and upgrade Ibrox into the National Stadium with the airport nearby, great travel links into the city, the subway. Absolutely no-brainer for me.
Sorry, folks, but I'm not sharing my seat with a tartan tranny, mate.
You wouldn't be at the game, Jimmy. But we'd get the benefit out of the time, mate. That's what I would do.
My arse would be the same, touching a tartan tranny's arse where it was sitting. No for me, mate. Nah. No, all kidding aside, folks, I can see where you're coming for there, pal. Aye. I mean, if any club deserves, of course, Rangers deserve it more than they do, but we know what's happening there. They're getting everything in Eden, but I totally agree with you.
We're the only Scottish club in Glasgow, mate.
Of course we are. Aye.
Aye, well, on that point. Well, we promised you a bit of culture earlier at the opening of the show. Are we up for that, Bridgeman?
Oh, yes, of course. What we've got here is a little poem.
I've got to introduce you first.
Oh, apologies, pal.
I've got to set the tone here. If everybody could go on mute and the boys in the lobby would stop typing and tune right in to our resident poet, Bridgeman.
Yeah, this is a wee poem about Paul Gascoigne. It's Paul Gascoigne Hall of Fame poem. This canny man from Gateshead wore the Rangers number 8. He made his way from Lazio and became a light blue great. He lit up world football, was a legend of the game, yet the SFA disgraced the Scottish Hall of Fame. Rejecting his nomination, they lied through gritted teeth, but it was very plain to see what clearly lay beneath. The excuses that they made were a disgrace and a shame, discrediting the once famous Scottish Football Hall of Fame. But the people love and know you, Paul, for you're the people's friend, and the family of Rangers will stand by you till the end. For you graced the field of Ibrox and set our hearts aflame. That's why you're written on the Rangers Hall of Fame. Gaza, it's true when you said you were the best, for your talent is sublime, and we are truly blessed. To see you weave your magic, that's why we can proclaim there's only one Paul Gascoigne upon our Hall of Fame. So let them stick their Hall of Fame, and let them go to hell, for in our hearts and memories will forever dwell. Of the title-winning hat-trick when you stamped your name, only upon the hall that matters, the Rangers Hall of Fame. So don't be a stranger, Gaza. Haste ye back always to your home in heaven, Ibrox, but of the bygone days, where your name is mentioned reverently and with great acclaim. Paul Gascoigne, hero, legend, upon the Rangers Hall of Fame. The end.
And who gets the credit for that, Bridge? Who
It was one that's on Follow. It's It's in the net by it's published, or rather, it's put into a thing on the net by. It's in the net, well-known member on Follow. So that's it certainly wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Make sure we give the boy the credit for it.
Absolutely, but it's in the net. It's, I don't know if it was his, but he put it into Follow. So
whoever it was, that's brilliant. Well done to the guy that wrote that. Brilliant.
Really clever, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Apart from me stumbling a wee bit, but really enjoyed that. Thank you, lads.
Well, I think you were wonderful reading that, British man. Who's your favourite poet?
Victoria Wood.
Victoria Wood, oh God.
Pam Ayres.
Pam Ayres, aye.
No, seriously, do you read poetry?
No. I was quite good at poetry when I was at school. I was only a wee boy at the time, you know.
Rudy?
No, I like a verse now and again, that's all.
Aye. A fat verse.
Don't mind a wee bit of Samuel Taylor Coleridge through, you know.
Oh, right, okay, the Americans.
And flicking through one of his tomes occasionally, you know what I mean? I like a day.
What about yourself, Jimmy?
All Orange songs did start as poems. So, obviously, sure, it is old, but it is beautiful. And its colours, they are fine. You can go on like that, so all poems Orange are good.
No,
shocker, that.
No, the reason I hung off there and I'm going to ask Fox last is I've got to give him time to Google it.
No need for me. There only is one poet, mate, and that's Robert Burns.
Robert Burns, Rudyard Kipling as well, out of fashion because he's a colonial viewpoint, but there again...
His cakes were all right, weren't they?
No. It's the language of the day, Rudyard Kipling. Brilliant man. Brilliant man. But anyway...
Robbie Burns was good as well. Robbie Burns was very good.
Can I just come in and give the boys a wee update on the game? It was played in Larne tonight, mate.
Aye.
A young Rangers squad went down 2-1 to Larne. They were getting beat 2-0 until young Josh McBake scored a goal. The line-up was young McAdam in goal, Houston, Bradley, Finlayson, Shields, Thompson and Palmer, Kelly, Dallas and Mandubi and Burke were the boys that took part in the game. So a very young squad, and unfortunately they went down. I hope they had a good night in Larne. I was hoping Ulster would be on to give us a report, but he's probably hit the pub with that. He's not very good at games, mate. He's only seen Rangers win about once in 4 years, I think. So even when they go to Ireland, he doesn't get to see them win.
Well, there you go. But interestingly enough, it's nice you mentioned the youth, Fox, because I know you've got an interview lined up, and it kind of ties in with the point about Hampden. I'd like to lead the boys on, but we'll see what happens anyway. If you've got that interview, we've got an interview with Craig Mulholland about the youth at Ibrox, so I think it'll be quite interesting if we can all go on mute, boys. Fox will play that for us. It's about 10 minutes, I think.
Aye, it was out at the end of last month, and we never ever got round to playing it on the show, and I think it's a terrific interview. It lets you know how the youth are developing and the things they're doing in the background at Ibrox, so I'll put it on and let's hear it.
We've had a good start to the season. First, let's start with pre-season and the fact that you have a lot of academy players currently in and around the first team.
Yeah, I think that's been the biggest thing for us is the progress that some of the lads have made. There was 6 went to Spain pre-season. One of the really pleasing things for us as an academy, the manager came back, he liked them in a football sense, but he actually spoke about the way they conducted themselves around the hotel. They were first out to set up the session in the morning with the manager, they took all the gear in at the end, they wanted to do extra. Now for us, in terms of the culture we're trying to create, that was really important. But in a football sense, obviously some of the lads did really well. Glenn's moved from the academy now to the first team now. And obviously Stevie Kelly's been regular with the first team, Zach Rudden, boys like that. So I think from our point of view, to see them go with the first team and be received in the way they were by the first team management staff was great.
You obviously talk about that pathway and the fans are very insistent on that pathway, and to now have 2 former academy players as first teamers in Glenn Middleton and Ross McCrory, that must be especially pleasing for you. Yeah,
I think everyone's quite aware. We started the project 3 years ago. We've made a lot of changes, but ultimately the outcomes were only probably going to start to come now. So Glenn's made that step, Ross has made that step, Robin McCrory's doing well, as I've mentioned already. Stevie and Zach have been around regularly, along with others like Jordan Houston and many others. So we think over the next sort of 18 months there could be more in the same mould as Glenn and Ross, and ultimately that's a result of the hard work that's went on over the last 2 or 3 years.
How proud were you in the pre-season friendlies at Ibrox, especially seeing Zach Rudden score?
It's a great moment for all the academy. There's loads of the academy staff there, and we spoke to Zach, and he says he wasn't really sure how to control his emotions when he scored. I think Andy saw that reaction, but that's what makes it worthwhile. Every day in here we see young players grow, we see them get better, we see them change. We had one young player who's now coming to see us the other day, and he used to be someone that we had problems with, and he's now cooking on his own. He's away to the supermarket to go and buy some sea bass and cook. It's incredible. So for us as staff, not only do we see their development as footballers, but we see their development as people. And to see Zach, who's been with us since 8 years old, and it's not just a lot of the staff at the top of the academy get credit for that, but he's worked with coaches under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, under 11s, and they deserve him massive credit. And it's great for us all, but I think what you can sense is we're really heading in the right direction, and developing young talent, maybe for the first time in many, many years, is really important to Rangers.
You obviously work now alongside a new management team in Stephen Gerrard and his team. How much do you work alongside them on a daily basis? Because I think you're around on the first team wing most days, aren't you? Yeah,
and I think that integration's been great for the club. So if you look at the manager, obviously he's worked in the academy at Liverpool. You've got Michael Beale, who's been really involved in the academy through his career. So they understand where we are. They want to play young players. Now ultimately for us they need to be good enough. But I think that integration, so Michael's coming to do in services for the academy staff. Graham Murty and myself, we have dialogue with the manager on a daily basis, and all of the staff, and I think that integration, Gary McAllister's watched right down to under 14s. So if you're a young player at Rangers, you see the manager, you see the assistant manager coming to watch your games. If you're a member of staff, you see the first team staff taking a real interest in our football methodology and how we work. And the good thing is it's really aligned from top to bottom. So hopefully the whole club's coming together, and I have to say under the guidance of Mark Allen as well, who's pulling all that together, because it's his job to look at all the different departments, and I think that's a real positive for Rangers.
You're obviously into the Reserve League as well this season. How have you found the start to the season in terms of that challenge being different to what you were up against last season? Yeah, it has been quite different, and if I'm honest, we're not sure yet that it's been the right thing to do. We took the boys out of the Reserve League last year, or the 20s League as it was then, with the games programme, which was fantastic. I mean, the challenge we had was great. We found the first couple of games that we've maybe not quite hit the levels that we did last year because of perhaps our own standards and our own expectations of where we can get to. So what we need to keep pushing for as a B team, I think that's critical for us, because if we look at our talent in the academy under 17, under 18, under 19, there are some top players who can go and beat many of the top players throughout Europe and perform not just by winning the counter attack and sitting in, but actually going and dominating the ball and playing with a real level of technique and ability. What we now need to do is challenge them in men's football, and I think if you look at the Challenge Cup game against Falkirk, that was a real example of playing with our style, playing the way we want to play, which we think is probably better than the loan process, because we're teaching them hopefully to be Champions League players for Rangers one day, but it's against men. It means something. There's a crowd, there's press, it's in a stadium. I think all of that, we need to create that environment, and we'll be pushing hard to continue for the B team concept, where hopefully we see a Rangers team in the lower leagues in Scottish football playing hopefully the same weekend as the first team. Are you confident though that you can still make progress this season in terms of the decisions you've made about where the teams will play? Yeah, we are, because what we've decided to do is we'll prioritise the cup competition. So in the Youth Cup, which is now under 18, we'll play our strongest team. In the Glasgow Cup, which is under 20, we'll play our strongest team. In the Challenge Cup, we'll play their strongest team. In the 18s League and in the Reserve League, we'll play younger players up to challenge them. So we'll do that, but in the cup competitions, we're saying, right, let's go with our strongest team. Let's go and try and win them if we can. But in the leagues, we'll make sure we're challenged. In addition, we'll still have our European Games programme, and we're talking currently with some of our opponents in the Europa League to see if we can do something there, which will hopefully challenge our players a bit further as well. The other age groups have had good starts to the season as well, haven't they? The 15s, 16s. Yeah, it's been great. We've watched the 15s go out to a tournament abroad and go and win it again with a style of play not maybe associated with Scottish teams previously. We've watched the 19s go and play 3 Champions League teams in pre-season and win that tournament. So there's no doubt that the work that gets done here, particularly at Beauclair Academy, again we were doing 18 hours of contact time a week. I think that's starting to show in the technical levels of our players, their understanding of the game, their decision-making process, and we need to keep challenging them. But through all the age groups, there's been some fantastic results. Our job now, though, is to make sure we push them and progress them and put them up the age groups. You mentioned Beauclair there. Are you really starting to see that partnership and that tie-in, the kind of the fruits of it as such? Yeah, I think the players that are coming out of that who have now just become pros, they're the kind of first group. But if you now look at it, we've 30 young Rangers players doing 18 hours of contact time a week. If you just contrast that to where we were 3 years ago,
where they're maybe doing 8 hours of contact time. That's an extra 10 hours a week where they're with a ball. We do multi-sports. The quality of staff, if you look at Brian Gilmore, Stephen Wright, Gregory Vignal, Alan Boyd, Neil McIntosh going into that mix, the quality of the programme, we want to make our school the best in Britain. No question, and I'm including all the Premiership clubs in that. And we want to make sure that our young players that go there are pushed through a programme that means when they become professionals at 16, they have a level of ability that we've not seen before at Rangers or indeed in Scottish football.
You've also started a new initiative over in Northern Ireland as well, is that correct?
Yeah, we looked at what we call club hopping over Northern Ireland. They go basically from club to club to club through that age of sort of 14 to 16. Now, if you're a parent of a young player, that can't be the best way to develop your son, that they're going a week to one club, a week to another club and so on. So what we did was we said, right, we're going to commit to these kids earlier. So we've got 3 or 4 kids we've committed to at the age of 14. They'll come exclusively to Rangers between 14 and 16. We'll film all their games. They'll have a Skype call with the coaches over here. We'll give them an S&C programme over there. They'll get one-on-one coaching over there. They'll be over here as often as we can. And it's quite a unique programme. We monitor their schooling. We link with their clubs. We link with international teams. So hopefully it's given us a bit of a USP that parents have said, yeah, do you know what, we want to link with Rangers. We want to work with you. And it means that we're actually getting some of the best talent. So I was over recently at the Milk Cup. I was standing with an academy director from England and they said, what players are you looking at? I said, well, what are you looking at? He said, the number 9 and number 10. I said, well, it's great. They're both on pre-contracts with Rangers. So you can see him looking and say, how have you done that already? So it's a new initiative. Other clubs will realise what we're doing and catch up quickly. But what it means is, using all the technology we have and all the expertise in the building, we can get the best talent in that country as well as the best talent in Scotland. So
we're going to get a new kind of tranche of Northern Ireland boys coming over, the best talent from the country, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. And I think if you look at the work that Jim Magilton and his team have done at Club NI, they've actually really ramped up the programme for the best talent in Northern Ireland. So the standard there is getting better as well. So where it was a market maybe a few years ago you wouldn't have been as interested in, now there's some real talent coming through there. And of course we've got a huge supporters base there, there's a big affiliation with Rangers. So we need to make sure we're getting the best talent. And Phil Cowan, our scout over there, is doing a magnificent job. And I think the new programme is quite innovative in terms of getting the best talent.
And in terms of your development squad, if we start with the loans they're currently out on, I think you've got 7 out on loan right now, but it's changed slightly in that maybe over the past few seasons players have only been on loan in Scotland, but you're kind of pushing that pool a little bit wider, aren't you?
Yeah, I think the thing to say about loans probably, it's only one part of a jigsaw puzzle in terms of what does a player need to actually get that transition to the first team. So some players won't need loans. So you look at Glenn Middleton, who's went from the academy to the first team, didn't need a loan. Ross McCrory had a loan at Ayr and a loan at Dumbarton before he made the jump. So we need to look at every individual player as a project, and what's right for one might be different for others. But what we also need to make sure is that they're getting the correct stimulus. So I went and watched a lone player a few weeks ago, and he was 35 minutes into the game before he touched the ball with his feet. He did 9 headers. But in terms of how we want to play, we want to dominate the ball and pass through the thirds, that's not necessarily the development we need. So what we've done, Peter Lovenkrands and I went over to Denmark. We're trying to link with a Danish club there in the top division there, and the initial talks have been really positive. Not for this window, we've missed it for this window. Perhaps the next window we can get players over there. So I think what we're trying to do is change the stimulus a little bit, so it's not just Scottish football, albeit those loans will work for others, and make sure we've got a variety of transition mechanisms that will say, right, how do I jump from the academy to the first team? And as I say, it'll be different for every player.
You've also signed up a few of your development squad players, haven't you? So far, Nathan Patterson, Jordan Houston, and I think there's 2 more in talks as well, is that right? Yeah,
well, Stephen Kelly and Matthew Shields, they're obviously to finish their signing, but they're all over the line as well now. So what's important for us is we retain our best talent, we make sure we're investing in them every day, we push them every day. We've created an environment around about them that will hopefully go and develop them into top players. But it's important as well that they see a pathway here. And I think what the manager's done, he had a talk with the players on the very first day he came in, and he's not worried about the name in the back of the shirt, he's not worried what age you are. If you're good enough, you've got an opportunity at Rangers, and I think these lads who commit in the future to Rangers are seeing the pathway that now exists.
Well, you heard it yourself, gentlemen, and thanks very much for that, Fox. Very informative, I thought. Jimmy, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think now the club's in good hands, youth level wise. You know, I mean, it's something that we've it's been a stuttering thing in along the years now. You know, we've not actually been able to bring in the youth as we have done in the past. You know, I mean, the guys doing a cracking job now, but it's sustaining that through. We need to sustain that and try and bring through some of the diamonds that are there. But I'm quite happy with Craig Mulholland's doing. We just need to see how the fruits of his labour are in the future, and what kind of diamonds we get coming through and playing for the club. But when a couple of Rangers, we tend to no. I think now, more so, I think we'll start to see the youth, and I don't think the youth will get as big a chance as we hope they can. I think now we're in a situation that's going to be win all the time now, and there's going to be players brought in on a regular basis. The young guys might not get as good a chance. That's just my opinion, guys. You know?
Fair point, mate. Shadow?
I disagree, actually, with what JFK just said. There is a chance that the lads will get an opportunity. I think Craig Mulholland's done an absolutely fantastic job sorting out what's been going on at Auchinawi. It's taken him some time, but I think beforehand it was some sort of mess. Let's be honest about it. I think the lads will get, especially with Stephen Gerrard, him being a youth coach, will get the chances. Yes, we need to win, and every club has always been that way at Rangers. But the fact is, we would tell the club, you notice when we went 3-0 up at half time, and he starts to rotate and he gives players 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. And if we can get them into the first team for little bits of time, even if we don't end up keeping them, we're increasing their market value. And, if they move on to somebody else, we'll hopefully get a bit of money for them. Excuse me. In the past, one of the things that I have been proposing and think is a really good idea, and it sounds like a sort of what's going on in Northern Ireland, whereby rather than players coming to us, we're sending coaches out to them. And I think perhaps if we're sending coaches out to, taking it a bit further, send out coaches to schools. I mean, schools are infamously now saying that they can't afford to run football coaches or rest of it. Right, we'll supply the coaches, but everybody that we got that plays for, and we coach, signs for us. If we don't want them, we'll cut them at a later date. But everybody that we coach signs for us. And then you could perhaps have more of your players coming from the local area, which I always think is a good idea because they're more inclined to have a feeling for the club.
Okay, pal, ready?
I think Craig Mulholland and the coaching team there that they've got now, well, I could say Auchinawi, it's the Hummel Training Centre now. I think they're doing a fantastic job really with the boys. There's some real talent there. Will they get a chance in the first team? I would like to think so. Think so. I mean, I'm sure most of the Bears think the same way. But it's a good point that Jimmy makes. You've got to win at Rangers, and I think you can only give a couple of boys a good run in, a chance in the team if the team are 1-0 in the park. We had a situation the last couple of seasons where we brought some of the young guys in. And they didn't really cut it, but then the team was failing badly anyway, as it was, it was a team that was in a bit of a mess. But they seem to have got their act together, and I think Mark Allen and Stephen Gerrard have been a big part of that this season since they've come in. They know what they're talking about. Stephen Gerrard came up for working at the academy at Liverpool. You've got Mark Allen who worked at Man City's academy, he was director of their academy. So these two guys actually know what they're talking about, So they're communicating, obviously, they're going to watch the games, and they're talking to Craig Mulholland and his team, they're saying, look, this is what we want, they've put a structure in place that didn't seem to be there before, But I think behind the scenes, we all know it was a mess for years, we didn't even have, there was no coaching. We didn't have any, scouting, there wasn't any proper scouting done. Well, that's all changed now. We've got all that, it's all in place. And I really do hope that in the next 2, 3, 4 seasons, we'll see the fruits of that. Because I don't see, like we've said in the past, we've been forking out the money to keep what was Auchinawi running, and we weren't seeing any fruits for the Labours, So hopefully they've got their act together. It certainly looks like they have. I mean, the under 19s and that and 20s and stuff, they've had some fantastic results over the last season or so. So hopefully they can make this next step, I mean, there's going to be times when we're going to be looking at them, games where you might expect one or two of them to get a wee go in the first team, and we'll be able to see what they can do. Middleton looks like he's been kept on a wee bit of a leash. Stephen Gerrard obviously has already said he doesn't want to go burning young players out. I think a perfect example of that for me was McCrory last season. I think there was too much pressure put on the boy because he was a talent. We all recognised the boy was a talent, but he was in a failing team and there was too much expected him for being a young player. That won't happen, I don't think, under Steven Gerrard, you know. So, it's looking good for me, Drew. Looking good.
Good man. Bridgeman.
Yeah, the boy sounds really excited, the boy Mullins. It's really good. And it's great. He really comes across and he opens his heart and lets you know what's happening. And the way the boys have described it to a T, what's actually happening. And all the things that are happening from a youth perspective round about Ibrox is it's actually quite, how can we say, quite uplifting for the fans. And there's a part of it I quite like. I don't think I heard them saying anything about it, but the development squad, the development league, Rangers I think are abandoning the development league, and they're going into this going abroad, you know, and going playing better teams abroad and at home as well. And the last thing I'd like to say on that is I believe that when we're playing Spartak Moscow, their youth teams are invited across to Ibrox. And when they go to Moscow, our youth team's been invited there, so they'll play in the afternoon of the game, their youth team versus our youth team. That's fantastic. All these things that are happening under that leadership of that boy, just fabulous, and we're really working in well with Steven Gerrard. So very exciting times for the youngsters at Ibrox. And I have to say, I can't disagree with anything Rudy says, or Jimmy, or anybody else that wants to say it. It's going to be magic if you can get 2 or 3 youngsters to come into the first team and actually make it all the way. It would be just wonderful to see. Just wonderful.
Yeah, here.
Okay, Bridgeman, we've been joined by Ulster Beer, but I'd like to get Fox's opinion first on it. If you don't mind, Ulster, and I'll bring you in.
I don't think the support realises the full amount of changes that's going on at Ibrox and at Auckland, the Hummel training centre. I was lucky enough to meet the Irish scout Phil when I was over in Ireland, mate. I sat in his company, Tom Muller, young Jamie Burjonas, and the young boy Zach Brudden, and they were talking about this. And apparently, according to the scout Phil, that Rangers had a hard time signing anybody in Northern Ireland. They were getting out beat all the time by Manchester City, Spurs, Arsenal, etc. And he was telling me about one of the young boys that they had signed. I think he'd only signed them that week. And he says he couldn't believe that this young boy actually signed for Rangers. Man United were chasing him. As I said, Arsenal, everything else. And the setup of now going to Ireland is, we used to keep saying on here, we should copy the Ajax model, we should copy this. We have developed our own model. We're ahead of a lot of clubs in Britain and what we've started to put together. And I think everybody would agree the results that our youth teams have been getting at home, playing foreign teams and away when they went through that. We amount of games last year where they were very, very successful, played very good football. It's absolutely marvellous what they're doing. And all this has been sponsored by people like myself and everybody else that buys lotto tickets and everything else. This is what's funding the youth, mate. And they're doing a marvellous job there. And I think it all looks really good for Rangers in the future, mate.
That's good inside information there, Fox. But talking about across the water, Northern Ireland, you've been joined by Ulster Beer. Good evening, Ulster. I know, a big intro like that and he's not there.
Hello, I'm here.
Hello, hey, lovely boys.
Well,
how are we, Ulster?
Yeah, very well, thank you very much, True.
Good man.
Well.
What's in your mind tonight? Yes, thank you.
Oh, no, nothing much. I was down in Lauren. We're only back there from Lauren, so we played pretty much a very young team against Lauren tonight, and we lost 2-1, unfortunately. But young guys, they didn't do themselves too bad. They done themselves proud tonight. You know, a very young team, But they played pretty well, to be fair tonight. They weren't too bad. But unfortunately we lost 2-1.
I think it's about the experience at that age anyway, Ulster, rather than, any junior trophies or youth trophies or anything like that. While it's always nice, it's always something to mark up in the club history. We were listening to Craig Mulholland there, and, they're talking about this European approach, and they're speaking to the, some of our opponents in the Europa League, as Bridgeman mentioned. And I think it's this experience. Well, let's put it another way. I think if you're a parent and you're getting your kid into that academy, I think they've got a better chance. They stand a better chance, mate, eh?
Yeah, I think Rangers are doing the right thing at the minute, True, to be honest, because, if you remember, a long time ago, Stephen Davis was a young player now, and he's in his 30s now, but at that stage, it was actually his father, True, that decided to take an opportunity to go to Aston Villa because Stephen Davis wasn't getting a chance at Rangers, and that happened quite a lot at the time. There was very good young players, but Rangers were in a different sort of stage because we had the money, I suppose, True, to compete with other clubs. So instead of looking at our youth, we went and bought the best players for each position. I think that's changing now. I know we've went out and we've spent a wee bit of money this window, obviously, to get a few players in from Croatia and different and young guys from England and etc. But I think that the youth development's going to be in the Rangers' future. You're going to see a lot more young youth players coming through to the team, and I think that's what we need to do because you can't afford Rangers the situation we're at the minute. We can't afford to go out and pay big money every single window, and I think if we can develop youth players and bring them into the squad, that will help us. I think if you've noticed that if you look at it across Europe, I know Foxy was saying you don't want to copy models from Holland, etc. too much. We're trying to do things our own way, but I think if you look at your Ajaxes, your Feyenoords and PSVs, etc., if you look at what they have done, they have actually started to really work at their youth, bring youth through, and that's what's helped them. And obviously, you eventually their players eventually go on because the English market is paying the big money.
Can I come in there and ask a wee question, Ulster?
Yeah, go ahead.
You were at the game tonight. Out of the team you saw tonight, how many do you think are worthy of first team place in the next couple of years? Just in your opinion, what do you think? Do you think there's anybody shown? Well, so that's my point. We may or may not bring through maybe one or two, but for me, I've got to say, I just think it's a waste at times. Some of the, I would like to see reserve football brought back into Scotland again. I don't think this taking them around the world is a great idea. To me, I think it's lip service at times. I was looking at some of the players the other night. I don't know any of them. What are they going to contribute to Rangers? Is they just bringing a youth player through just for the sake of it? I knew a guy called Kenny Marshall who's his dad was today with a Loudon, Robert Marshall, and he worked with Rangers development about 9-10 years ago, and he was telling me Rangers used to get through 500 boys a season, and you were lucky to get 20 out of that. So, to me, I'm not saying it's a waste of time, but I know they're trying to develop boys, but what are they trying to develop them for? Me, I want to go and see Rangers win all the time. Bringing youth players through who are no up to the scratch, for me, is no good in that way. I want to see class on the park. Many players are going to bring through it now.
But that's the thing, Jimmy. That's the whole thing. We used to try and get young boys on our name and our name alone. And that was a mistake that we made for years and years, that we can sign MDB or Rangers. But at modern day football now, you've got to have the complete package to entice young players now. And you're saying there, what's the use trying to bring these boys through? This is the future for Rangers, mate. We haven't got the money to compete in the transfer market. We have got to grow our own players. It'll take time, But when you're reading some of the things that you are or listening to that interview, we're now getting people or young boys and their parents confirming it by letting them sign for Rangers because of the package we're putting in front of them. We are getting the top players and not just 100 and hopefully getting one. As I said about the 2 youth players that the boy Phil was talking about, everybody was chasing them, mate. Everybody.
I know that.
But they went to Rangers because Rangers are offering a full package, a thing they never done before. They're well schooled, they're well taught, and they're only going to develop these players into better and better players. And okay, we might not get everyone a success, but we'll do a hell of a lot better than we've done in the past, I can assure you of that.
Maybe so, but I don't see anybody jumping out. You know, I try and keep up as best I can, the same as us all, and Ulster was the other night. But I just don't see anything jumping out. I mean, I got the young boy that's playing there in Germany now. I mean, Manchester City wanted to keep him, and at 16 years of age, they offered him £30,000 a week, and he knocked it back, and he went there to Germany, and they gave him £50,000 a week. Right? I mean, obviously we can't pay that kind of money, but I'm going back to the Derek Fergusons, the Barry Fergusons, the Ian Durrants, the John Flecks. I mean, these type of players are they coming through now?
But Jimmy, you're talking about a couple of players out of thousands that went through Murray Park at that time. But it's all changed now, mate. Everyone's we're taking boys with skills and trying to improve them. It's not a random approach anymore. I think if you look at our most successful young boy in the last few years has been Billy Gilmore, right? Went to Chelsea, rave reviews everywhere. I watched him in games and for playing for Scotland, mate, and he doesn't look on the park that much better than any other of the players. But they're looking at his potential as he grows as a man, mate, and this is what you'll find with probably Billy Gilmore. He'll not see the Chelsea first team if he stays there that long for maybe another 5 years. You've got to have patience with these kids. And the likes of Middleton.
Middleton wasn't a Rangers prospect. Middleton came from Norwich.
I know that, Jimmy, but
so that's
the difference. Middleton is the difference between Middleton's got the physique at his age that a lot of these young players have still to develop.
Well, I hope so.
And it takes time for them to come through, Jimmy. But as I say, it's light years ahead the way we used to run our youth system.
Can I butt in there a minute, Fox? Yep. Shadow's desperate to come in and make a point. He's giving me pelters and a low bait in front.
I'm not giving you That's it. Blame me too. Thanks a lot, bud.
Yeah. There's that dummy back in your pram.
Yeah, right. No, it's actually, I want to go back. You know, that's a conversation which we can do later. Because, you know, fair enough. But I want to ask Ulster a question. I mean, obviously, Ulster was at the game the night. Andy Dallas was playing. Would Andy Dallas? I mean, I've heard some good reports about the lad. Maybe it didn't have a good game the night. I don't know, but would it not be a good idea to have him on the bench as backup for Fredo in case anything happens on against the Hamilton game?
Come on, guys, don't be feared.
I think Ulster. I don't think he's there, is he?
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, you're there, Ulster. Okay.
Andy Dallas. Do you think he warrants a bench place against Hamilton?
See, I don't like to say this, right? I like to be really positive, but I can only go on by tonight. The team was poor. They were poor tonight.
Right.
They were poor. I would if I was just looking on tonight alone, I would say I wouldn't really put anybody in that near our first team tonight. But that's I don't want to say, you know, because I've looked at the results of some of the youth levels and it's been absolutely fantastic. Some of the things the youth have done is really, really good. But just going on tonight's team, we weren't that great. But it would be very unfair.
But Ulster, the thing I'm going to ask you is, what age group were they playing against? Were they playing against the Land first team when we're talking of young boys here?
Yeah, they were. 19, they were playing
19 and 18 and 17. That's what we're talking about here.
Oh, Jesus. Foxy, tonight, it was the Lauren first team playing a bunch of kids. I swear to God, they were all the Lauren first team, and then you had a bunch of young kids, to be honest, playing against them. They didn't do themselves any injustice. They played well. They didn't do anything really that wrong tonight, but it was boys against men, you know what I mean? And that Lauren team, they've played football for a long time. Most of these players for years and years and years, and they're well schooled in football.
But I think
that's why I don't want to put them down too much tonight,
I think that's a fair point, the kind of cross discussion going on between Fox and Jimmy there, and you're mentioning that yourself, Ulster. I think, if it's boys against men, 2-1's no too bad a result. But, I can take on board Jimmy's point, we're getting one or two players out of this, but we've got to have a winning team, and I can understand everybody else's point. There is absolutely nothing better than to watch a young player who's a young bear who's come through the ranks and making it into the first team. But I think us as Rangers supporters as well demand a winning team in the park, and I think often that's to the detriment of the youth, Bridgeman.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm a great believer in you. We've got to, you reap what you sow, and we've restocked the coaching staff at Ibrox for the third time now, and this is where the best have been, allegedly. Obviously, I'm not a youth, don't follow youth teams, but there are some guys who do, and they like to watch the youngsters, and they're telling us the youngsters that are playing now are the best of breed, shall we say. So, and listening to what Foxy was saying, very, very interesting. I would like to see, Rangers getting one or two over the next season or two, getting them into the first team squad. They might not make it all the way. They might not make it with Rangers. They might go elsewhere, because when they've been with Rangers, it's a fantastic foundation based on the way the guy was describing it. I'm very excited about it, and I love listening about the youngsters. And I just think back to when we were doing the doldrums in the third division, and with that youngster Lewis McLeod, what a fantastic player he was, with wee Barry Mackay coming through, and they're about the only two players out of all that's actually made it from a big time perspective. When I mean that, a good professional level, with young Fraser Aird and others that came through. So we've had a few that have come through, but they haven't been big money buys or big money makers for Rangers. And what we want is Rangers to go out and get the best, as I say, the best of breed, make sure we're getting the rest and treat them right, bring them through and feed them into the first team and see how they get on. And if they don't make it, they don't make it. But I'm sure we'll get one or two. And if you get one or two and treat them right, my God Almighty, we could win a couple of stars for sure. Just like John Fleck and people like that was just mentioned earlier on.
Look,
sorry, Paul.
Look, I was just going to say, I think you all missed a big point that Craig Mulholland made in his interview. The biggest thing to bridge the gap is youth to first team football. And Craig Mulholland says that their ambition is to get a B team into the bottom leagues in Scotland, where these young players can grow as a team, playing against adults and measuring themselves against adults. That's the way it is going to go forward. The way it remains at the moment, where your youth team are trying to get into your first team, the pressure is so high on the first team to get results at the time that these boys can't bridge the gap very easy. That's why they want a B team playing. When Rangers play on a Saturday, they're away, playing away from home, and a B team at Ibrox, hopefully, when Rangers are away. And that's how the boys bridge the gap. They get in there and learn playing against people bigger, stronger than them, and grow together. And that's how you get a number of players through than just one classy individual who were lucky enough to find it.
That was mooted a couple of seasons ago, Fox, and it was shot down. Rangers were quite keen, and so was the Green and Grey, quite keen to have a team in the lower divisions, and it was shot down. I would like to see a return of the reserve league. Most of you guys on here are right.
Is it not due back next year?
The reserve league. Well,
yep.
There's sound bites that it's going to be, and we've all been to reserve games, and they get good crowds. And what Ulster was saying there about men against boys, that's what FIP was all about, guys. Come on. we've all played football at different types of levels now, and that's where you get your learning curve. There's no use playing against other wee boys. Go and play against men and learn the game, learn the hard way. You know, maybe I'm too old in the tooth for it, but that's just the way I think. I think that they use playing me 15, 16, 17-year-olds against the same. I've been to many a reserve game, Ibrox and other grounds that Rangers played in the 70s. And Rangers were up. I mean, I remember watching Rangers players. Wally Miller against Aberdeen. I can never forget it. Wally Miller was coming back for injury. And he's up there trying to win a ball against Rangers players who are maybe 7, 8 years younger than him, right? But that's the learning curve you've got to go. See, if you don't get hurt going for the ball, you never know what it feels like. So, for me, this youth system is okay to bring some decent players through. I don't think they'll ever get a real chance at Ibrox unless they're a diamond, as I keep saying. Apart from that, Craig Mahon's doing a good job. But we need to just start being realistic here. You know, I know it's maybe 10 years down the line, but for me, personally, as a Rangers fan now, I'll keep using it. Win for me. If we've got to buy them, we need to buy them. Loan them, we need to loan them.
I think we need to try.
You're missing the point. I need to answer this. You're missing the point again, Jimmy, that it's no reserve league going to be formed because teams in Scotland can't afford the reserve league. And the way we want a B team and Celtic want a B team in the lower leagues is the constant football for these young people. They'll never be promoted, we know that, but they're going to be playing against professionals that stroke down the leagues, young players coming up through the leagues. And that's constant football. Same as the first team football, you'll play probably 36 games a season. In a reserve league, you'll be lucky if they can put together 6 teams to play in a reserve league.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is the B league, the B, putting a B team into the lower divisions is never going to happen. It's already been voted out. I can't see it, mate.
I'll interject here, guys. I'll come in there, guys, if I may. Right. And it kind of brings us where I want to lead this conversation as well. If they're talking about spending, say, £80 million in Hampden, we've got teams in our league who can't afford to run a reserve team. Is that money being spent in the right place? And I watched an interview just the other day there with Arthur Newman, and he spoke about when he came to Scotland and he was out in Hamilton. There was a team out playing in the public park, which was Motherwell, and he couldn't believe one of the Premier teams were, you know, training in a public park. He went on to talk about, you know, and where he came from, it was a wee village, there were 4 teams in it. Each one of the teams had their complex. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of where I think spending money on the likes of Hampden Park is criminal when our youth game and when our senior game is in such a state. Any thoughts on that, Rudy?
It goes... See the whole thing about the young players in this team. Let's talk, as far as Rangers is concerned just now, I've got much more optimism than I've ever had, to be honest with you, as far as the young players are concerned. I get where Jimmy's coming from. You have to buy players. You have to buy quality players in. It's as simple as that. We can't depend just on young players, because that programme that's started to run just now, that they're implementing, it sounds great. But that's something that you're not going to see the fruits of for another 3, 4, 5 years, right? So Jimmy's right. In a way, I agree with Jimmy. You're going to have to bring quality players in. But I'm much more optimistic now about the youth players than I've ever been, to be honest with you, because I think we've now got a proper coaching structure in place that will work well with these young guys, you know. And I'm really optimistic now that we will see young players coming through, quality young players, as long as we can keep a hold of them. I mean, all you have to do is, if you look at the 80 million on Hampden, for me, it's just an absolute joke. It's just a joke. When you look how bad the coaching is in grassroots in this country, name under the national team is so bad. I'm having to qualify for a major tournament for 20 years. We've got these idiots in the SFA talking about spending 80 million, and it won't be 80 million. It'll be way above 80 million by the time it's finished. But they're talking about spending 80 million at a conservative estimate on a midden like Hampden, when they should be looking at what they should be putting into grassroots football. When you look at teams like Iceland, Croatia, what they've done in the last few years, you look at what Belgium has done in the last few years. I'm talking about national sides just now. You look at what these teams have done in the last few years, the last decade, 5 to 10 years. Look how well their national sides have done. That's because they've sorted their coaching structure out at grassroots. They sat down, they looked at it and said, this is rubbish. It's not working. Let's sort it out. Iceland has better grassroots coaches than we've got in this country. No, they have better grassroots coaches. They've got better facilities. The facilities in Iceland are outstanding for youth football.
Mate. Shadow.
Hi, mate. I was just looking at, I just had a quick look, and it says that the Reserve League actually started this year.
Right.
Well, they played Motherwell, didn't they? I was going to jump in and say that. They played Motherwell.
There's apparently 27 teams split into two leagues. Now, I don't go any deeper into it than that, but the fact is, if there's a reserve league, then that's great. It allows, as people have said earlier, it allows the younger, the players that are recovering from injury or whatever, and blend them in with youth players. Yeah. And not only are you playing against a harder team, you know, if you're playing beside, for example, you know, Ryan Jack, who's an experienced permanent player, and you put, say, Stephen Kelly, Stephen Kelly's a midfielder, isn't he? Or Cameron, or one of Fox's favourites, that Palmer lad beside him, then he's going to learn a huge amount of Ryan Jack. And Ryan Jack said, no, mate, don't go there, go here, or whatever, you know, and then learn huge amounts of them. And that's what the whole thing is. And the big problem is with now that Craig Mulholland has got the whole thing sorted, you know, it appears to be getting a handle on the youth side, is creating this bridge between the reserve, the youth football, and the first team. Because you say it's very hard, apart from a very few select top quality players, or perhaps as Fox said, that have got the physique as well that can stand up playing against grown men. You know, they could.
The huge jump, Blue Shadow, to go for the youths into the first team. And that's how I can understand where Jimmy's coming from. It's a massive jump.
It's a massive. That's what I'm saying. There's only a couple of people can handle that. But if they could create this bridge, and as they say, as Stephen Gerrard's doing with young Middleton, who even though he's a fair solid laddie, he's breaking them in gently, giving them 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. And perhaps, you know, he's only started him once, I think, this past season.
Okay, Shadow, listen, we've only a couple of minutes left, and I'm desperate to get Bridge and Ulster Bears. Say opinion, Bridge.
As I said earlier, as far as I'm concerned, I think that the youth situation in Rangers is excellent. It's getting better all the time. Whatever system they set up, I agree to a certain extent that reserves, as they were in the bad old days or good old days, whichever you look at it, was a good setup. It's slightly different now. As Foxy said, they are limited because it's cost prohibitive. But if we have indeed, as Shadow said, if there's a reserve league being set up, then that might just work in everybody's favour, including ours. So let's hope it works. My personal favourite is sending the teams away abroad and let them play against better quality or equal quality clubs and teams. That's my favourite. I don't know if it'll work out, but I hope it does. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Okay, Bridge, Ulster.
Yeah, you know, my point of view is, you know, I think we all agree that we can't probably afford to go and buy the top players like we maybe could have done in the 90s. What we've got to do now is develop. We have to develop young talent. You won't always get, you know, if that's one or two players every couple of seasons, then that's success for me. You know me. But that's what we have to do, because we can't afford to go out and outbid the top clubs in England, etc. And it's not that they're bigger clubs than Rangers, because they're not bigger clubs than Glasgow Rangers, because, you know, fan base, etc. But they do have the money. The money is in that league. Unfortunately, in Scotland, we don't have the same amount of money to go and buy the finished product. But if Rangers can somehow develop these players and bring him into the first team squad, then that is success for us. And I think that's what we're doing. If you look at, like, forget about tonight's match against Lauren, because it wasn't a great game, but you have to look at the likes of what we've done. We've beat some of the best clubs in European football. The young team has done absolutely fantastic, especially last season. Going into this season, they've beat all the best teams that's been put in front of them in all the divisions. They've went and beat Manchester City as well, 3-2. I think it was only a couple of days ago. I think it might have been yesterday. What we need to do is keep going on that track. Mulholland's doing his very best, and it's good to see that the club's facilitating him. And what we need to try and do is keep that going. And if we can get one or two players and bring them into the first team squad every couple of seasons, that's success for us. And that's just what we have to do. If you look at Ajax, you look at Feyenoord, you look at PSV, they're all doing the exact same thing. They're producing their youth players. They're sticking with them because those clubs are in the same boat as the rest of us here. They can't afford to go and buy the finished product because English market is going and buying these players from very early on because they can afford to do it.
Do you know how many young players Chelsea had out on loan last season? 40 young players. 40. Clubs like that hoover the talent up. They hoover them up because they can afford to do it. Ajax, for me, have a fantastic system. I've been to Mrs. Rudy took me to Amsterdam for my birthday.
Right. Keep it clean.
And the guy that owned the hotel that we were in was a coach at Ajax, and he invited me out to the training centre. I saw pitches that went on for as far as the eye could see, and there was hundreds of kids, all the way from, I would say, 6-7-year-old right up to 16-17-year-old teenagers, all over the place with Ajax strips on, with coaches. That's how Ajax managed to. But I say to them, out of all these young
Rudy, I could listen to you all night, mate, but the minute he closed in. But Blue Shadow, I'd like to thank yourself for phoning in. Yourself, Rudy. Yourself, Big Ulster. Jimmy for Knightswood. Our Fox on the technicals. And I'll leave Bridge to say the last couple of words before I come back in.
I would have a marvellous night again. Great discussions. Good subjects and well put. I really listened with interest to everybody. And a big thank you to you, True, for running it for us. Can I just say to all the Rangers fans all over the world, and particularly Rangers fans on here on Rangers Radio, this is what we're all about. Everybody, please keep it going for the Rangers. Keep it going. We need it.
Yeah, people.
And once again, gentlemen, I'd like to thank all of you, everybody listening YouTube, everybody listening Facebook, and the Legionnaires in the lobby tonight. It's been French night tonight. As I say, Fox for the technicals. Good to have Fox fit and healthy again and back in the saddle, but there we go. That's the Cowboy night, the Morrow night lined up. So thanks
to Old School Blue and the other technicals, mate.
Oh, here, we get two technicians now.
No, aye.
Is your money being hoffed?
Aye, my money's off, mate.
But a big thanks to everybody. They will be back on tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. This has been Rangers Radio. Good night, everybody, and thanks very much.
Here am I, a loyal